Hello, hello, hello. Happy New Year. I am Tegan Bartos, founder of Jolter Career, and this is my first live stream of the year. If you hadn't heard, LinkedIn did away with audio rooms, which was like my go-to platform in 2024 because, to be honest with you, I have really long hair. And it takes a very long time. My hairdresser is going to see this and she's going to be like, those ends, you need to get in here. But yeah, I decided in 2024 I was just going to do audio rooms because it took me way less time to get ready for them. But in 2025, LinkedIn is forcing us back. So that means I can no longer bring you up on stage so you can contribute to the conversation, but you can still join the conversation in the chat. Like Pamela, hello, welcome to the live stream. We are here today with Dave Goulas, and we're going to be talking about LinkedIn influence, a topic I recently did a private coaching session for all of my 2024 clients on, and they loved it. So I am so excited to have you here, Dave, to get your perspective as well. Before we dive in, you want to introduce yourself just a little bit?
Sure. And thank you so much for having me, Tegan. My name is Dave Goulas, and I am the president and co-founder of EasyDC 3PL. We are a Kentucky-based third-party logistics company, and we help e-commerce brands with warehousing, fulfillment, and transportation. And then I also host the Beyond Fulfillment podcast, which is a weekly YouTube interview show where I interview a wide variety of entrepreneurs about their journey and what it's really like.
I love that. So again, welcome Pamela, welcome Eric. Anybody else tuning in, go ahead and drop a comment. If you have any questions, be sure to drop those as well. We will answer them along the way. So when we think about personal branding, you don't often see a lot of logistics, supply chain, fulfillment, and a lot of times startup executives, they go dark too and live in their own little bubble. So many people think it's just a nice to have, but I feel like it's becoming more of a must have. And when we chatted last summer, you were kind of talking a little bit about how you stumbled into it and what it's meant and how it's made a difference in your life and in your business. And so what made you realize that personal branding was important? And can you share any examples of where how strong your brand is really helped you land an opportunity, just to kind of show how it actually pays off if people are thinking do I really need to do this?
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's funny that example you gave. That's exactly the boat I was in the pharmaceutical industry. So I was in that industry for nearly 20 years and had a lot of success. But it was the type of model where it was like B2B sales, where you would just call people and you didn't necessarily have to be out there with the personal brand growing and doing a lot of social media stuff. It was a lot of niche sales where you didn't have to do that to build a business. And when we started the logistics company, I quickly realized that as a bootstrap startup, we had to be found in terms of it wasn't feasible to just call people and do business that way, where people had to find you. And it started when I went to my first trade show and I saw all the other bigger companies I was competing against and how strong their brands were and how everyone knew them and all the experience they had. And, we didn't have any of that. So I quickly realized that being, in charge of the business development, I had to get out there and get known and have a presence to where people could find me when they needed our solutions. So yeah, I quickly started doing that. I started on LinkedIn. And I started posting every day and getting active, connecting with people and building the presence that way. And then about 6 months in, I had the idea to start the podcast and had no experience podcasting, didn't know anything about it, but realized the value and got some good feedback from my team about the potential. So we literally just started and got it going and never stopped. And yeah, that immediately made a big difference in terms of lead generation, lead conversion, people finding me from the podcast and turning into clients. And yeah, we've just continued to build on that ever since.
I think you brought up so many great points and how like what served you in your last role didn't necessarily work in the new role and in your new goals, right? Oftentimes when we have a great brand internally, like with our existing company and even the clients we serve, depending on how long we've been around, we might have a great brand. But then when we go and try to do something else, it's like we need other people to know us too. And I get that a lot with my job seekers, where maybe they've been with the same company for over 20 years and have a great internal presence, but they're not known outside of their industry, and say they are going to a trade show. The brand that they represent is what stands out, not them themselves. And so there's a subtle nuance of your personal brand and the company that you work for, how much weight that holds. If you don't have that brand behind you, then what does your brand say? And so they can be a bit daunting to think about how to start creating that. And a lot of people really haven't jumped on this bandwagon, but I am all for it. And I've seen so many of my clients gain benefits from it. 1% of LinkedIn users are active users. 90% of executive recruiters use LinkedIn. And then shoot, where are these metrics? I've tried to pull up a Google Doc to see them, but it was like under 20%. I'm going to come back and I'm going to find the exact statistics, but LinkedIn broke down the demographics of the people who use LinkedIn. And it's like 40 plus is less than 50%. And that's nuts, because between the ages of, say, 21 when you graduate college and 35, those are the primary users on LinkedIn, but the majority of the executive roles are held by those 40 plus. And so like, why aren't you on the platform? Why aren't you using the platform? But there's lots of platforms you can use. So we know LinkedIn is a powerful tool for growing our brands. And you had mentioned you've got the podcast, you're starting to think about your brand. How do you use LinkedIn within your brand? And how does like the podcast and other places that you're growing your brand presence, how does that come into play full circle? That was like so wordy. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, LinkedIn by far is my favorite social network. And I'm on numerous ones, but most of them are just posted. I don't really spend time on any other platform other than LinkedIn, but I definitely enjoy that. And I think it's for executives, CEOs, founders, right? And I've heard a lot of the same thing from most people. And those are the people I interview every week. So the vast majority of them, their go-to social network is LinkedIn, just for the simple fact that it's centered around business. And if you're in that role, your primary focus typically is your business. So I like that. And I always just use it as a post to, or as a place to, post content that provides value, right? And then I consume the same thing, content that provides value from the other people I follow, the other people I connect with. And then, I'm always trying to connect with new people, whether it's, could be a potential client or just someone that could be a good addition to my network that I could somehow either learn from or potentially have some other business with, or just someone I like their content, right? It doesn't have to be always centered around, a customer vendor type relationship. So I just think it's a great place to consume content, to collaborate or network with other like-minded individuals. And then with the podcast, so we post every week on the, it lives on, it's everywhere podcasts are heard. So Apple, Spotify, all the smaller platforms, YouTube as well, because it's a video podcast. And then also we post about each episode on LinkedIn. We post the blog recaps on LinkedIn. We post the shorts on LinkedIn. And that's just a great way for people to comment, engage. And the reason too is because that's where the audience is primarily entrepreneurs, and that's where they're spending their time is on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a big piece of this from even the beginning of what you were talking about is just like getting people to trust you, getting people to like you. And if you're talking about things that you feel are going to bring value to the platform, like you said, people are naturally going to get inquisitive, going to start following, engaging, and things like that. But it doesn't start off that way. And so when you first started, and you're transferring from one industry to another and going from an employee to a business owner, what did your engagement look like? And how did you maybe mentally keep going as you were working on trying to have what you were posting have more visibility?
Yeah. So fortunately too, my entire adult life, I've been in sales. So I think that's such a powerful foundational skill for entrepreneurship is just, in terms of your results creates your paycheck, the ability to persevere through any, resistance, rejection, having to continually have, important tasks that are results driven every day, and just learning how to communicate with other people and learning how to deal with different types of personalities and different types of challenges and etc. So even though the social media thing was all new to me, I had that background to where even if things are challenging in the beginning, I'm used to that, right? I'm used to persevering through challenges. So yeah, I focused on just trying to connect with other people, and really kind of similar to previous industry and pharmaceutical, I like to, view it as, let me understand what the landscape is. Let me understand who all the players are, the different levels, how it all works, who the customers are, why there's value created, what they need, what the problems are, what the pain points are, and just I tried to use it to learn and get a thorough understanding of the marketplace in general, and then also connect with other like-minded people, and then find out where there's mutually beneficial areas of collaboration, and just continue to to do that. And again, right, focus on progress, focus on the small wins, appreciate the small wins. Right, that was key with the podcast as well, is just appreciating the small wins, and so often it's just the ability to keep going and making that incremental progress while you're building that skill set and overcompensating with the
because it is a skill set. Like, storytelling isn't easy. So on one hand, what you said is you had to learn the platform, you had to understand how it worked, how people are using it, and that's significantly involved over the 20 years that I've used the platform. Well, maybe not 20, but I started early on. Like, I think like LinkedIn started in like 2005, and I think I joined in 2008, like when I first graduated. And it's evolved to more of like a social platform than just a digital resume. And a lot of people are taken back by that. And it's gone to an extreme in storytelling as well, because yes, people are connecting. Good people know good people. That's what I like to say. People are connecting with one another, trying to find those like-minded individuals, but people are also sharing their stories, sharing their wisdom, sharing content that's of value, to where some people are commenting, it's not Facebook, take that someplace else. So when it comes to you and your strategy, when you're thinking about storytelling, right? Like when you're creating your posts, when you're creating your blog stories, trying to get people to listen to make sure that they get the value that you're looking to deliver, what is too much on LinkedIn? Because it's still, at the end of the day, is a social media platform.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone, that's really up to you in terms of what you share, how you share it. I mean, me personally, I'm naturally introverted. I'm not the type of person that's going to post everything I'm doing and this, that on social media. So it's more intentional about what is there to learn, right, from this situation? So in me, I'm into personal growth. I'm into always improving and trying to be the best version of myself. And so I always, like, for instance, the different entrepreneurs I interview, I kind of highlight their journey and some key points about what they overcame or how they attacked a problem a different way, or what, things that would inspire.
Everybody loves a struggle and a comeback.
Yeah, exactly. So those are things I like to share, relative to the podcast. And then otherwise too, it could be, motivational quotes and kind of my take on that. It could be something related to an issue going on, whether in the news or in like logistics news, and, all types of stuff, whether, it's a port strike or the bridge going down, or the, tariffs, or whatever happens to be going on. So I just try to make it relevant and valuable. But again, I see other people getting way more. And again, right, it's up to you. It's really about being yourself and whatever that looks like. And everybody has a story, a brand. We're all different people. And I think too, right, like when, especially in our business, right, when brands, e-commerce brands are going to send us their inventory, which is oftentimes their entire livelihood, they're going to want to know, well, who is this person, right? And so the first thing they typically do is look them up online. They'll check their LinkedIn or whatever, right? So again, it's just about, letting people know who you are, whatever that looks like. And for me, I just, that's the way I share it, and it's worked out. But I see other people doing it differently. So I don't think, I don't criticize people for like more Facebooky type of profiles or whatnot. And sometimes too, right, people are interested in people. I enjoy seeing that too, if it makes sense and it's valuable and there's a connection there. And I think that's fine.
I love that you're open to it, not because I'm judging somebody who's not open to it. If somebody wants to control their news feed and be really specific, you click the 3 dots and you say, I don't want to see stuff like this. But to your point, everybody has to decide what their comfort level is, what their strategies and what their values are. And so when we're deciding to have a personal brand, not just representing the brand that we work for, we have to decide what are our career goals, because at the end of the day, LinkedIn is a professional site, and what are our values? What do we feel comfortable posting to balance that professionalism and that authenticity? You might go and have a wild Super Bowl party, but you're not necessarily going to post the wild part, because that draws the line of the professionalism value. But you might talk about who you get together, who you're rooting for and why, or whatever. And that shows a little bit about your personality. Great. When I start working with people on thinking about their professional brand and how they can elevate their influence on LinkedIn, we always start off with the end in mind. Well, what's your goal? And so, Dave, it sounded like your goal was to build credibility and expand your influence, your network. And then from there, you created content pillars, okay? Growth, topics impacting the industry, so on and so forth. So you've got your content pillars. And then you've got your plan on how consistently you're going to post. You had talked about each week you drop a podcast episode, you post highlight clips from it, debriefs from it, inspirational quotes, things like that. And I think that's the part that gets overwhelming, is like, where do I even start? But you start at the end. What's your goal? What are your content pillars? How consistently are you going to post? And then you map it all out. And so when you're mapping it out, and for those of us who are watching and thinking like, okay, how am I going to take action on what they're talking about? Because I want this kind of influence. I want to expand my network and have more opportunities and so on and so forth. What is your best advice? What do you and your team do that make it so that the process is seamless? Do you batch your content? Do you have certain days that you feel perform best? Like, do you give yourself a break? How do you go about that part?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so me and my team, we meet every Monday, and we, go over our content for the week. Me personally, I do batch produce it, a lot of it in, typically on the weekends. And it's just interesting. I've been doing that for the past, you know, probably year and a half. And it's interesting, like anytime, even though it could be a long week with all sorts of meetings and customer issues and whatever else we're doing, when it comes time to actually create my content and I, carve out that time, I get energized by doing it. And yeah, I spend the time necessary. I do it. And then we map it all out. And then the podcast itself, that's a whole other animal. And then I have separate batch times to do. I record the episode. Obviously, I'm involved in the the summary type stuff and the intros, and we have a whole process for that. But yeah, so you definitely have to be you have to manage your time well. You have to have a structure. At least, I guess that's how I do it. Right? You have a structure, you have a schedule, you make sure you get everything done when it's supposed to be. You have multiple people involved that are accountable. So that's the way I've done it. But yeah, I mean, I think the bigger thing too, and just like any entrepreneur could appreciate, the thing that's worked best for me is, taking act now, take action, build the momentum, realize you're not going to have it all figured out, but start, keep going and figure it out as you go. And that's always been a powerful strategy for me to get things accomplished, is just to do something and create the momentum and then keep going and figure it out as you go forward.
My favorite thing that you said is that you're energized when doing it. Like, so many people think like, oh, this is going to be draining. But when you're crafting content that is going to bring value to other people, that other people are going to be inspired by, on topics that you enjoy and feel deeply connected to, it is energizing and it does make it fun. And that kind of takes away some of the fear that comes along with thinking about taking ownership of your personal brand. So I know we're getting close to time, but it's the first week of 2025. And I'm not really big on resolutions because I don't keep them, but I do pick a theme word of the year. And this year, mine is intention. I'm going to do a live on like what that looks like for me here coming up. So I won't get into mine, but I would love to know, do you have a New Year's resolution, Dave? And if not, do you have a theme word, or could you pick a theme word on the spot that really sums up what you want 2025 to look like? And naturally, that may then impact your branding this year, your content this year, who you choose to connect with this year, what events you prioritize attending this year, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've never been a fan of the quote New Year's resolution. I've always been a big fan of setting goals. And the beginning of the year is a great time to set goals in a variety of areas. And yeah, if I had to pick a theme for this year too, I'm sure you're familiar with the framework of systems over goals. So just the fact of, okay, right, whatever the numbers are, right, the goals and the different accomplishments, not getting hung up on, the specific number and tracking as far as, oh, did I hit it? Did I not? So have the numbers, but then back into it as far as what are the actions, what are the systems that are going to be required to hit those numbers, and making the main focus that, making sure the behaviors, I guess I would call behavior, making sure the actions, the behaviors are done each and every day. What does that look like with the outreach, with the sales follow-up, with the different content, with the different shows, with the different podcast episodes, with all the other things involved, just making sure that the necessary work is being done consistently, and focusing on that and letting them, and not getting so hung up if the numbers aren't, being hit at a certain schedule. But if you're making sure you're doing the necessary work each and every day, I find the numbers often take care of themselves.
That is such a sales mind. That's so true. I call it my big, hairy, scary goal because one of my mentors, James Wedmore, that's what he calls it. And I kind of liked it. Like, if you can create any reality for yourself, what the heck does that look like in a big, hairy, scary way? take the what out of it, the how out of it. Take the how out of it, but what is it? And then work your way back. So for like a lot of the executives that I work with, maybe they're looking to transition. The average executive job search is 1 year. All right, so what action are we going to take each quarter to move us closer to that? What action are we going to take each month, each week, and each day, so on and so forth, to really make sure we can accomplish our goals? And that is a more realistic way than saying, all right, on New Year's Eve, here's what my goal is. And then by the end of February, you're completely burnt out and you're just done. And then your mind feels like, well, I failed at that. Now I'm going to fail at everything else. And then just February seems to suck. Or you're not getting enough vitamin D if you live in Chicago like me, and it's just the weather related. And then spring, you start feeling energized again. But we don't want that. We want to have amazing years for people in 2025. So if people are watching this live or on replay, their goal is to expand their influence and to create a personal brand for themselves in 2025 that helps them accomplish their goals. As we wrap up here, what would be your best advice for someone just starting off? You know, maybe they've had a profile for a couple of decades, but they've never really done much with it. What is your advice for them just starting off, how to start thinking about this while they're juggling their family, while they're juggling their career and everything else that's going on? And how can they connect with you?
Okay. Yeah. So my advice to anyone, if they want to, do anything, is just to get started, to take some sort of action, however small it is, and then to keep doing that repeatedly and learn as they go. And it's, again, right, if they've had a LinkedIn profile, but they're not doing much with it and they want to expand, I mean, if they're not sure of the way, then I would say, get some help, find an expert or find someone that can help you, a mentor, or just someone else that you can learn from and get started and go. And if you do that and stay consistent and keep learning, good things will happen. So that would be my advice there. And then, anyone that wants to connect with me, very easy to find online. LinkedIn is a great place, Dave Gulas. And then, by all means, check out the podcast, Beyond Fulfillment. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, everywhere else podcasts are heard. And then, if you're an e-commerce brand and need help, if fulfillment's a headache for you and you want to learn how we can help, EasyDC3PL.com, or just, again, reach out on LinkedIn and be happy to talk about that as well.
Love it. All right. I'm going to drop those links in the chat, Dave. And then Robert came on late and said, how do we catch the replay? If you're just tuning in, you can catch the replay as soon as we are done with the live. It'll give you access to watch it on replay. So Dave, thank you so much for joining me today and, giving us a behind the curtain scene view on how you have created a brand for yourself that helps you, get to your goals, and breaking it down in really easy and actionable ways, and showing us that this can be fun. Enjoy the rest of your travels. Be safe. Hopefully you don't get snowed in so you can get back safely. And for all of those of you who are tuning in live or watching this on replay, thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions after the fact, do not hesitate to reach out to me or Dave. Good people know good people, and we are more than willing to help you elevate your personal brand or give you little nuggets of advice that we've done, because we both had to figure this thing out as well. So I will see you all next week for another LinkedIn Live. But next week, instead of being at 11 a.m. Central Time, it'll be at 9 a.m. Central Time. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, T.